Now, as a consequence of that program audit, that we also were notified that some of the charges that we were charging off to planning activity, funding the person in HHSA that is doing a lot of this work for the Gang of Five and how we spend our Homeland Security, that those charges were not appropriate. And so we've asked the Gang of Five to take another look at how we're going to fund those activities in the future and look at how we're going to solve that potential shortfall in revenue for those staffing positions. So we'll keep you posted. It is significant from the standpoint that we do have a cash flow problem going on right now, and we may need to change some of our procedures on how we do business. Gas Dispensing Facility Committee, just an update to your board that we do have a list of recommended candidates for that committee, and we will be meeting on February 29th. Paul Kaler of the CEO's office will be conducting those meetings.
What's a gas dispensing facility committee?
That was at your board's direction about 4 or 5 weeks ago. There was some discussions relating to the charges that the Air Quality Control District charges for gasoline dispensing facilities.
Oh, okay.
So that's a follow-up to the board.
I was thinking, I was off on.
That's a follow-up to your board's request that
Yeah.
our office get involved in that issue. And I do have lists of candidates that if any of you are interested, you can see me and I can tell you who's on that. Retirement board trailer, we will be establishing that as a mini EOC to do some training activities in there, and also creating a hotspot for our department heads. Community block grants, the latest NOFA is out there. As you see in my comments that there is priority points available for programs that commit to a minimum standard for energy efficiency, programs that benefit a minimum of a 51% Native American population, public improvement projects, farm worker housing, etc. And I have met with the community, I always get the Community Development Corporation, and they're going to be handling some of the application process for us as they've done in the past, and we will be returning with your board prior to an April 30th date with the public hearing request to talk about those funding requests. SB 81, probably most of you are not familiar with. It is a pot of money for the juvenile side of facility grants, and CSAC has recommended that I serve on that committee, and I have accepted that appointment and will be helping the chief probation officers determine where we're going to spend that money for construction grants. That's another piece of AB 900. We don't specifically have a project in this county, but hopefully we can be an influence by my membership in the committee as to some of the end results of how that money is spent, and we're looking for opportunities there. I mentioned the Harwood Mill layoffs in here because our office would like to work with some of our local community partners and some of the people who have been laid off from our mills recently, and some of our larger employers, and that we're interested in outreach to those groups to see if there's any way we can bring them and use them as a resource to fill some of our internal county positions. So just wanted your board to be aware that we were making that. And finally, I just thought you would be interested in the initiatives that have qualified for the June ballot, since today is election day, that there have only been 2 initiatives that have qualified, and both of those issues have to do with eminent domain issues. And I thought that's something I know the public is always particularly interested in, and we do have several eminent domain issues that are floating around in the county, so I'm sure that would be something your board would be interested in. And that concludes my comments. I believe Paul Kaler is also, under the legislative report, wants to talk a little bit about the Washington, D.C. lobbying trip that Supervisor Smith and he will be undertaking, I believe, starting tomorrow.
Yep. To the CEO, Supervisor Pinchot.
Yeah. Tom, back to the Harwood Mill layoffs. How it was brought to my attention that maybe for some of these job, we're short a lot of positions in a lot of departments, not just Department of Transportation, but, are we doing as good a job as we should be doing advertising locally throughout the county? You know, for instance, the Harwood Mill, over 200 employees, some of them may, you know, there's, I think, 3 or 4 public works positions or Department of Transportation positions open just in the Laytonville yard. Are we doing any advertising outreach in that area to fit that? I mean, I don't see any of these positions even advertised in any of the papers, or and maybe we have a little handout or something we could do. I mean,
That's certainly our goal here, because we do have a normal advertising process that we do, but our office would like to engage more with our local mills and contact the human resource directors in the mills and have further conversations to let them know specifically what we're looking for in employees. Some of them are only extra help positions because they're seasonal in nature, but we do think that we could at least help families get some source of work until we find out what their long-term economic status is.
because when you have 200 people get laid off and you don't have a single applicant for a road position in that area, maybe we're not doing as good a job as we can getting the word out.
I would say our office concurs with you, and that's why we'd like to undertake that initiative.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other discussion on the CEO report? Okay, I think it's timely we move to legislative report from Deputy CEO Paul Kaler.
Good morning, board members. Paul Kaler, Deputy County Executive Officer. I don't have much to report on today. We are at the state level really waiting for the deadline for submission of bills. We have, I think, been reported to this board in the past that Assemblywoman Berg is looking at several pieces of our fire legislation. And we have not heard back from Don Peterson yet on exactly, which of those bills she's looking to sponsor. But we should know here pretty soon, because I believe the deadline for bills is is February 22nd. I think that's right. I was in Sacramento last Friday at a conference of legislative coordinators from the various counties. It was reasonably well attended. Met the legislative advocate from Humboldt County, and we had some talks and trying to interest them in perhaps supporting us in our fire legislation. There was a lot of talk regarding the special session, regarding the budget, and I'm not sure whether, Tom, you spoke to that matter or not, but it appears that the special session, they will be taking up the cash problem, most definitely, but ongoing concerns regarding how the next year's budget is going to be handled and the structural deficit. I guess the mood was somewhat gloomy, and that would be the only way to really just describe it. Supervisor Smith and myself are preparing for the trip to Washington and our lobbying trip there for appropriations. Our agenda is 2 days. Right now, the agenda is filling up pretty quickly. We will be meeting with Congressman Thompson's office, representatives of Senator Feinstein's office, their appropriations legislative assistant. We will be meeting with representatives of the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee on Water and Energy, as well as the appropriations legislative assistant from Senator Boxer's office, as well as the House Appropriations Subcommittee chief staff member on energy and water. So we also expect that this schedule will fill out more in the next 24 hours. So there will be some more meetings that will be scheduled. With that, I'm here to answer any questions that the board members might have.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Kaler? Thank you, Mr. Kaler, and
Thank you, board
safe
members.
travels. CEO?